I love that jovial guy walking around with that meat smells good.
He improv all of that.
Really, it was really good.
The script was completely different. What else?
You guys introduce yourself while you're doing the movie and tell us a little bit about your
Hey, I'm Franklin Speck. I shot and edited Keepsake.
Hi, I'm Belle Sinclair Pates. I wrote and acted in Keepsake, and I also produced it.
Where is the idea coming from? Where is the director? Because there were many directors, right, in the film?
Yes, so we had, our director was Rachel Patrice. She unfortunately couldn't make it today, and our assistant director was Priscilla Zani, and we, of course, had our director of cinematography, Franklin. And the idea, it was originally written as a play. I wanted to do a one-act play, loosely based off of a breakup in Washington Square Park, and so it was originally entirely about the breakup. But after talking with Franklin and everyone, we decided to evolve it to include other characters, and once we met our friend Zach Gora, who played the Polaroid guy, we really wanted to make the story involve him because he just added so much to it.
Yeah, and I think just one other thing that before we shot the film, we were talking a lot about kind of the role of the city in the park and trying to incorporate those kind of characteristics into it as well, which I feel like came across in this. So, yeah.
How long was the process of the film from pre-production to production of what we see right now? How long was it?
Well, Franklin can attest to this. It took us almost a year because we started last year writing, and the process of drafting and figuring out what format we wanted to do took 4 or 5 months, and then finally we decided on a shooting date in February of this year, and finally finished editing about 2 months ago. And my brother, who did the sound design, he did it all the way from Los Angeles, so it took a lot of back and forth, but we finally made it happen.
Yeah, 100%.
What about the casting? Casting is pretty good.
So actually everyone in the film are my friends from Stella Adler. I took a class there and met Rachel, who was the director, Gabe, who plays the love interest at the chess table and gets covered in coffee. And then Zach, the Polaroid guy, was also from my class. And then through them, I actually met Franklin. So we really kind of all found each other. And I was lucky to find Franklin to help me carry this out.
So you as a producer, what do you learn out of making this film? What do you learn? Or what a producer needs to do?
I think I learned a lot from my brother, who's been a big role model for me, about being organized and making sure you involve everyone in the process. And also, you know, there's no such thing, I think, as shameless self-promotion. I think as long as you're promoting your film and promoting the work of all the great people around you, you build up everybody. So, what about you, Franklin?
Yeah, I think just I don't know, logistics going into the shoot, like exactly what you're gonna need is important, and just facing all those challenges of making sure that things work out on the day of production. And then also I think in post especially, we had a lot of back and forth about different ways we could bring the film. We ended up cutting certain parts or extending certain parts longer to emphasize them more heavily, and I think yeah, that was something that I definitely learned from throughout the process.
You are the DP, right?
Yeah, and I
You
edited
also
it as
edited
well.
the film?
Yeah.
How was that process? How long was it for you?
It was a few months, probably four months. You know, not full time, but it was an exciting process for sure. And I always like working on projects where I'm accountable to other people's visions as well. So it's like very collaborative, and like I was saying, I think we really discovered some parts of the film in the edit that were maybe not what we were initially like thinking it was gonna play out to be that way, but yeah, just like I really enjoyed being able to explore the different routes we could take with it, and I'm very happy with where it ended up.
And I will say too, Franklin was responsible for a lot of the creative decisions that ended up really helping our film. So originally our title was Ego Trip, since it was a different kind of narrative, and then Franklin one day was like, I think it should be called Keepsake. And it worked so much better, and it really transformed our film. And then when it came to deciding how we wanted to frame the different scenes of the film, set in different parts of the park, Franklin really led that discussion and said, you know, I think we need to have the Polaroid guy in the middle to really have a carousel of the park. And so, yeah.
So how you guys pull it off to do those the shooting in the park? How was that?
Yeah, I was gonna ask that question. I was like, how did because I see a lot of people around, like, how did that work out?
Yeah.
'Cause there's a lot of-
People largely left us alone. At the chess tables, those people were happy to be in it, and they were vocal for sure. But it was fun. I think this is a pretty low budget film, and we didn't have a ton of equipment. Definitely not enough to need a permit or anything to shoot there. So we just had a group of people standing there, kind of. I mean, if anyone was like walking into frame, we had some people around who would maybe stop them. But all in all, it was, you know. I also went to NYU and have several times made short films in Washington Square Park, and I think a lot of the people there are kind of used to it at this point too. So
you don't need permits to be there?
not and not really. Maybe you do.
I will say we were stopped by a policewoman who came over. What are you guys doing? Like, is there, what is this? And we just looked over student film.
Yes, you get away with that.
Yeah, honestly, and we had about the amount of equipment and people that you would expect for something of that scale. If we had more going on, it might have become a little more obvious that we were not students. But
Did you have them sign releases, the people that ended up being in the film?
I believe you guys.
Yes, we did, and there was a time when we were thinking about including one of the chess players named Artie, who's at the park every day playing chess. And we ended up not using his part in the film, but we got it at least one. So everyone was featured.
It's
I was going to say, you answered part of my question when you were talking about the different angles there. And I was going to ask you, was it challenging for you to decide what angles to use? Because there's so many good shots and angles for that film. Is it hard to decide exactly what shots and what angles you want to take? Include what background?
Yeah, a lot of it, I mean, came down to kind of natural lighting and just making sure people were lit the way, I mean, we're just working with the sun in February too, so not a lot of daylight. Luckily, there was some light, it wasn't raining or super cloudy, which worked out, but definitely kind of just the lighting of the subjects in frame was the prime motivator, and I was trying to work the rest of the angles around that. Yeah, but for the most shot part, we had storyboarded everything out. We knew had the shot list for every shot we wanted, and we had done a dry run through just with Belle and Gabe, I believe, before we actually shot, just to get an idea of where we'd be, how different angles would end up looking. But yeah, and we also it was mostly static shots too. So there's the one in the middle where he's walking around talking about the street meat and everything. Like that was a tougher shot to get, but for the most part, it was like put the tripod down, frame it, and adjust it, see if it looks good, and then yeah, go from there.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. We did, did I draw them? Or did?
It's been so long.
Yeah, for real.
We all worked on them. The director, Franklin, and I were trying to decide how we wanted to bring everything up. And we ended up having a pickup shoot because we were realizing we were missing some key points to the story. So it all worked out, but
Yeah.
Was anything during the post-production that was tricky and it was like, oh my god, we were missing something, you said the shots, something that in the movie you guys make you pull your?
Actually, yes, the music was a big thing because we were trying to figure out, well, in addition to other aspects, and I'm sure Franklin can talk about, the music, we wanted it to be not too, we wanted it to be a love letter to New York and Washington Square Park, but not, we wanted it to show like a slice of life in New York and not be too much. So we went through several drafts of music to see what would work well, and what we ended up with was a good mix in between the two extremes of what we were drafting, I guess.
I liked it because I thought I was expecting to see a guy with his instrument and a little bucket in front of him, it just looked like what you see at the park,
Busker. We had a scene with a busker initially, but then we took it out, but it has that same vibe.
What was in making, the process that you had the most creative? Production or production? Which one you choose?
I'm an editor over, I mean, I shot this as well, but editing has always been kind of very special to me. I feel like it's, I don't know, it's like you're making a puzzle in the end and you determine the pieces you have in production, but then the actual like putting together of the puzzle is in editing and you're working with what you've got too. I don't know, so I think you have in a way like a lot more freedom in post-production, but also a lot less freedom because you're locked into everything that already exists from what you shot. But I think there's pros and cons to both really. Yeah.
Now that you mentioned that, how much it changed from the script to the editing process? You guys twist things around? What was that?
Yeah, sure. There were some, I would say, large structural changes that happened in post, and we made multiple different versions with, I think there was one that the film started with him walking around the fountain in the middle. We had that at the beginning, and something we were trying to really nail down during post too was who is the protagonist of this film? Is it Belle? Is it like a Polaroid? Is he Gabe? Josh. So we made a few different cuts that kind of emphasize different people and moods, I guess. And ultimately, I think we landed on this one being the strongest with the focus on Josh as the protagonist because he, I would say, goes through the most definitive arc in the film, and yeah.
And how was that decision in final cast? Was that all of you guys agree, or just one person? How was it deciding final?
We all met over Zoom a lot to kind of go through this issue because we were all split on who was the main character, and I think we're down between it's either the guy, Josh, or the Polaroid itself traveling through the park. It's a journey.
Yes.
So, and we wanted to leave it slightly open to interpretation, but you can definitely see, I guess, a combination of both. Josh and the Polaroid, they change when they leave the park. Josh is the one who leaves the park without the Polaroid, but he gets something out of it. He's paid for it, and he's also learned something, hopefully. So.
Yeah, I like the Polaroid, the fact that somebody picked it up, the fact that somebody recognized the guy from the Polaroid. I mean, I thought that, so yeah, when you say the movie of the Polaroid, yes. Because at first they didn't think there was any worth to it, because they were mad at each other, and then Polaroid itself happened.
I know you answered how long the process was, but how long did it take for you to write the actual script?
So it took about 3 or 4 months, because originally it was, I think, like 30 pages, and then it went down to 20 pages, and we kept shortening it, and it was originally just them at the chess table. Actually, they weren't even playing chess at all, and then we added the chess and added more layers, so, yeah, it was definitely, it also took time finding the right crew. Like once I found our director and Franklin, we all were able to collaborate, and it made the story richer.
Did you have a lot more shots with Polaroid guy? Because, I mean, he's such an interesting character. You probably
Yes,
never
yes.
felt just with him wandering around from person to person.
With this rejection, and
Yeah.
rejecting like, hey, I took this picture, give me the money.
that we weren't expecting, and that was another thing that kind of threw our story for. We were like, wow, we need to give him more spotlight and change the story so he can have more of his characters. It's so interesting. But yeah, that was. He said that actor actually has only played serial killers up to this point.
Wow.
That was the first like comedic role he's ever done, and he killed it. So.
Nice.
So guys, what did you learn from the movie to do different next one? What was your takeout from that?
That's a good question.
The movie's pretty good, huh? So,
Yes.
Yeah, I would say for me it's been a lot about just collaboration. I feel like meeting new artists and people to work with has been like a very rewarding process for me in this, and like I think it just goes to show the value of collaboration and working with other people and finding common ground too. I think like we all had slightly different visions and interpretations of like what this is going to look like in the end, and I feel really happy with how it came out, and I think like the only way to get there is communication and collaboration, so very grateful for that.
I completely agree. I think this is the first time I feel like I've had an artistic community ever, and that just this process cemented that. And I feel like there's so much value in showing your work to other people, even if it's a learning process, or you think you're failing, or you're just trying. It's better to just put it out there and try, and not to work with some great people and learn from them.
So congratulations to them. So guys, we're gonna have a break of 20 minutes more or less. We're gonna have beautiful films from Mr. Dan.